Hello, and welcome back to the Dynamic Duo podcast, where we talk about all things personal development and growth. I'm very excited to be here with my wonderful co host, Armando. Hi, Armando.
Hi, Anya. Good to be back. Good to see you again.
Yeah, very. How are you today?
Happy and excited about the podcast.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah,
Very, very excited. But before we start, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our content. And also, write us in the comments what topics do you want to hear? What did you like? What is missing? Just tell us. So, yeah, let's dive into our podcast, our episode today, where we talk about why identifying and visualizing the values, our own values, is important. So, Armando, why should people get clarity on their goals, their values, and how can they do this?
right, right. Well, after our podcast last week, which was very powerful, thank you very much again for sharing that with us, with everyone. It was very positive, and it goes along what we spoke from the very beginning, right? So at the end, we want to help people or inspire people achieve their goals, create the habits they need to achieve their goals, create a strategy, and and have achieve a better life at the end, right? So when thinking about that, and I hope some of our people watching us are going through the process with us, visualizing is a key element of the whole thing, and that's the reason we encourage everyone to identify their values, and at the end, their 8 or 10 most important values, and then describe them. Uh, what does that mean in the ideal form, right? And this goes along the principle. One of the principles. What is my book? Somewhere here. One of the principles of Stephen Covey and the bestseller, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Is begin with the end in mind. So if we don't know where we are going, we'll probably end somewhere else, right? So we want to know, where am I going? You know, and sadly, in my experience, many people live like that, really. They just live through the motions of life. They just go day by day, week by week, functioning, re- you know, uh, working, having interaction with people, and so on and so forth, but not really knowing where they're going, which is sad. I think it's sad because I believe everyone has talents and dreams and potential, something to offer to everyone else. Not that their lives are not valuable as they are, but they could be better. They could be more. There's much more to offer and to experience and to achieve, right? So thinking about that is I think a great start is really being conscious and purposeful in defining where do I want to go. And part of it you are doing already. If you're to our audience, if you're going through the process with us, defining what does that mean? You know, family is important. What does that mean? How does it look like? How does it feel? How much time? When? Who is my family? And so on and so forth. Be clear. So that's the motivation behind the topic today. It's just how important it is to know where I am going. And this is more pretty much like a GPS of life, really, if you think about it, right? I mean, the most basic way of understanding that is you know where you're going, but you have to be aware of where you are in order to develop your journey, your strategy, right? So we are here right now. Where do I want to go? Like you shared with us last week in your testimony,
Yes.
So that's pretty much what is happening in your own life, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It is. Do you have any tips? Because not every person is a very visual person.
Mhm.
Do you have any tips on how to do this, how to see your end? Maybe some of our listeners did write down their values and
Mhm.
now they're trying to define it, but they don't really know how. Can you help us there?
Well, I'm not a I'm I like to write, but I don't know if I'm a good writer. There are people that are really talented in writing. So my process, my creative process is as follows. What I do is that I dream a lot. That I do. I'm a I'm a dreamer, right? So I think in images and or and I develop processes in through images in my head, right? Sometimes I'm like I'm working on in the garden, which I love. I love working. We have a garden, and I was doing this last week some work outside, which I love because it was sunny, it was nice, beautiful. So I getting my hands dirty with dirt, and that's this and that. So in doing that, I'm thinking about things. I'm thinking about the podcast, the topics that we're gonna touch, and thinking about these other things, strategies that I have to develop in meetings and so on and so forth. So I in goals, right? So I think in images while I'm doing something. But some people might want or need to sit in front of a computer to write or piece of paper and pen. So whatever that is, just dream about it. You have to really dream. What is how does my life look like in the future? Or how do I want my life to be in the future? And visualize that. And then write what I do is I write um, in German, Stichwörter. Also, what would that be?
Points.
Yeah, bullet points. Bullet points. You know, more time, more free time, whatever that is. I don't want to put ideas, my ideas in your head, but whatever it comes to your mind when you think about those images, then bullet write it. This is bullet points. More time, or I'm doing this. When am I going to do that, and so on and so forth. So that's a great start. And then from there, keep dreaming. That's what I do. I keep dreaming, and I try to then explain that to me in writing. Like, well, it had to be. You have to find a way to measure it. So I think in the present. When I think about the future, I think in the present. So it's not like I'm going to something, but I'm doing this and that. And so I use the present language. It has to be measurable, right? Uh, with with dates, with quantities, with for example, if you want to lose weight, that will be maybe like a good analogy. And if you want to lose weight, okay, it's very different to say I'm going to lose weight, as opposed as I weight so many kilos, you know, which could be, I don't know, 20 kilos difference from now and the future, right? But you say that as of today. Right now, I am 70 kilos. Speaking for a man, probably a lady want to be a little less. I don't know, but you see what I'm saying. It has to be measurable. When in 3 months, in 6 months, and so on and so forth. So visualize out of those elements. That's what I do. That's how I began to create my preferable version of life.
Mhm. And it's also, when I understand you correctly, it's also important to feel and to see yourself like in maybe in new clothes when we take this example of losing weight, like feel how it feels to have lost this weight, to be 70 kilos, to have the clothes of 10 years ago fit again, things
Right.
like this. How would you feel? How does it make you feel? How does it look and stuff like that? Try to visualize yourself in this situation, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's a very good element. Thank you for mentioning that. I mean, put it, be emotional about it, really. How does it feel like? Like, oh, it would be nice to lose a little, speck, a little, a little, a little Bauch, and a Bauch. See, I'm thinking German again. A little stomach, to put in my jeans from way back then, or whatever. What if I feel confident, I feel strong, I look good, whatever that is, just put it, get into it, really.
Yeah. So, for people who have started this whole process and now they're trying to visualize it, or they want to start visualizing it, um, what are the elements, what are the steps of visualizing it?
Well, I don't know. Steps, it varies really from person to person, but whatever that is, I will say just start, just really start. Try to think of those images, and try to describe those emotions, try to describe those dates, those quantities, or the people involved in your dream, in your aspiration, right? And I will say that, but most importantly, it's probably for me to motivate people to the why. I mean, why is important to visualize, and and the benefit of visualizing. And I think that there are several. I mean, we might not have time to go through everyone, but um, I think, let me see my notes here. I think one of those, we already touched a little bit on that, and that's direction, right? That's the first benefit, because when I go out every morning, if I have a job and I have to take the bus, or I have to use the car, or the subway, whatever that is, or the bicycle, you really need to know where you're going. I mean, nobody lives like that. I mean, well, partially, but I mean, with using this example, we see how irrational that would be, right? You like get up, get, take a shower, eat some breakfast, and then get a car, or just jump in the first bus that goes by, right? Well, let me see what I'm going to work. This time I'm going to take this bus. No, that's irrational. That's crazy. Nobody does that, right? Well, sort of like that. Leave people, if we don't, if people don't visualize their life in the future, right? We are just living, but who knows where I'm going? So the first benefit of visualizing is a sense of direction. You know where you're going. You know
Mhm.
why you're working.
Mhm.
Why, why you are saving money, or why you are reading those books, or getting
Mhm.
that extra certification, or that extra um, degree, right? You know why you are staying home
Mhm.
when everyone else is partying out. They are going on the weekend out, instead of doing something, I don't know, that will help them get ahead in life, and so on. So direction, because you know where you are going. And sort of like you, I mean, you mentioned that last week. You came to a crossroads, and
Mhm.
and you saw yourself. really. I mean, that's a great image, the crossroads. Like, oh my gosh, do I go left? Do I go right?
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. So I think that's the first benefit.
Yeah.
Did you experience that in your process too?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the what I said with the crossroad. You see that that in life we come to these crossroads all the time where we have to choose, do we go left, do we go right? And it helps to know where you want to end up when you
Mm,
yeah, it's really powerful. It's also when you started talking about the why,
mhm,
um came something came to my mind that I heard last year.
mhm,
I was at a conference where Trent Shelton was speaking,
mhm.
and he said that a lot of people come to him and tell him they have like a discipline problem.
Uh-huh.
And he said, you don't have a discipline problem. Have you ever had a job you hated? And most of the time people say yes. And he was like, well, but did you get up every morning, go to the job? And people said yes. And then he said, then you don't have a discipline problem. You are disciplined. You have a why to go to this job. Your why is to pay your bills. And that why is strong enough for you to be disciplined in something you hate. So just imagine how disciplined you could be if you have a strong why for something you want to achieve and you really love. And I thought that was so powerful to see that most of the times discipline is not the problem. Our why is. We don't
Mm.
know where we want to go, so we're not disciplined in the habits we want to have because those habits are not anchored in a strong why. And I think that's so powerful to learn and to see. So also with the visualizing, if you visualize and if you feel it and if you know where you go, and where you want to end up and how that looks like, your why gets stronger every time.
Y- Yeah. I mean, I cannot, it's perfect. That's the main reason why people live unhappy and unproductive lives, because they haven't identified their whys. Well, I think it would be fair to say that some people, they have identified also their whys. I mean, there might be a portion of people that have identified their whys, but something is missing and they are either afraid of taking the step, maybe, or they do not know how to.
Yeah,
Do you agree with that?
absolutely, absolutely. I see that in my life, oftentimes that you might stand at this crossroads, where you have to choose to go left or right. And
Right.
the easy choice is to go left, but the choice you want is to go right.
Mhm.
But that's also the difficult or the scary choice. And it's oftentimes we're comfortable as
Mm.
a species.
Right, right.
We want to take the easy route.
Mm.
So yeah, so a lot of people choose the path that is more comfortable
Yeah,
instead of maybe the thing they would like to do more.
that's right. Right. Yeah, being afraid of getting out of the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, I understand that because I mentioned that last time as well, right? That when I decided to be self-employed at the beginning of 22, it was scary as it was very scary. And the whole year was scary. Well, it's even now, but it's better. It's getting better. But that's the point. If you know how life looks like at the other end, okay, I'm moving in the direction I want. I'm speaking about a subject, right? I mean, it's like I know what I'm going. I'm not like just like randomly trying this and trying that, and maybe this time it's gonna work or whatever. No, we know where we are. But
Yeah.
going back to the other to that, I mean, how can we or conquer that? How can we be powerful in the sense, I need to try it. I need to get out of my comfort zone. I some people do not know. So obviously that's the obvious thing to do is ask around, right? Ask around, maybe you might have identified some people, or some people around you are in a position of helping you, how, in sharing how they did it, right? So for example, Anya, last week, if you haven't watched that episode, I'm going to put the link up here. If we can reflect on other people's experiences, but maybe you can ask directly, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Can you give me some tips? Because knowing is a big factor. But the other thing that you mentioned, and I want to ask you, is that what about those people that are afraid? What can they do?
I would suggest start small. Start with something that goes into that direction, but is not like, you don't have to just jump and like let go of everything, but start with something small that goes into that direction, and that way you can grow by every step you take. But take a step, don't wait, because fear is oftentimes it's irrational.
Right.
It's not like, I mean, it's good that we have fear for some things, like don't jump off a cliff, you don't know what's down there, like
don't do
it's good that we fear that. Yeah, it's good that we fear a lion, because yeah,
Right.
but oftentimes the things that hold us back are fear of what other people might think, or what if
What if
blah
I
blah
fail?
blah happens.
What if I
What if
fail?
I fail? But also, what's the problem? That's something my mom taught me, is always go through with your fear. Like think it through. What happens if you fail?
All right.
Like, okay, I fall down. Okay, it's gonna be embarrassing. Okay, what happens if you're embarrassed? Well, this and that happens, and go to the end of the fear, like because oftentimes we don't really realize what we're really afraid of, but it holds us back. And in the end, when you think it through, it's not that bad. And if it's bad, if it's like I'm going to be broke and can't pay my bills, then maybe figure out a way how this won't happen. Then you can act on this part. But really think it through. What really happens if your fear comes, like if your fear happens?
That's a great advice. I tell my kids the same thing, but a little shorter. So like, well, what is the worst that it can happen?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the worst that it can happen? And of course, we have to be smart. I mean, we have to evaluate risk. I mean, risk is part of life. And if you, like you said, going back to your advice, start small. If you think the risk is too big, and you're gonna lose the house or the car, or your kids are not gonna have something to eat next week, don't do it, of course. So be smart,
Yeah,
and take smart risks.
yes.
But great advice, just start small, but start somewhere, and go for it. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I often say, usually, I think there is well-intentioned, this advice. Some people that have achieved some level of success, it's like, well, I just work hard. Well, no, working hard is not it. I mean, it's part of it, but
Yes.
it's not it's not even the main thing. It's just one main thing. It's not the main thing, right? Because I see a lot of people working hard, but maybe not smart. Maybe they don't have the right strategy. Maybe nobody taught them how to visualize or how to develop a strategy of life, and so on and so forth. So hopefully we're helping. We're doing our best to inspire you to think otherwise. I mean, not just like work hard. That's not the only thing. It's part of
No.
it's part of the whole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
What
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
You talked about you started to talk about some benefits visualizing has. Is there another benefit you could share with us?
Well, yeah, I'm afraid, looking at the time, and I might mention that. I think, and then we'll maybe we can start with that next week. But I think attitude. I think your whole view on life changes, and everything. I mean, everything is related. It's like a part of a package, right? And so the one thing is like knowing where you're going has an impact in the deepest part of you, and it will be like a domino effect. It's like I was talking to the president of a football club a few months ago, and in failure, people that fail, or live in that lifestyle, it's a vicious cycle. I mean, if you don't know how to get out of that, it will be a vicious cycle when you stumble every time once again. If you do not correct directions, if you don't make changes, if you don't evaluate, whatever, and then it will be hard to get out of that. But at the same time, a virtuous cycle is also achievable, right? So if you have success, whatever that means, which and we spoke about that last week, if you are victorious, you can make a habit out of that as well, right? I mean, we make mistakes, of course, but if we learn from our mistakes and we implement, then we can get into a virtuous cycle in which we keep moving forward and progressing and coming close to our goals, to our aspirations. So change of attitude, I think that's another benefit, because you feel good. It's like, hey, I'm moving forward, I'm not stuck, and so on and so forth. So that alone opens your eyes to so much more in life. While when you are stressed out, what happened when we're stressed out and feel depressed, like you have like this tunnel vision, right? Yeah. So maybe we can talk about that next week. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Well, Anya.
Amazing. So yeah, we're at the end of our episode. Sadly, time goes by way too fast.
it goes really quick.
Yeah, but don't worry, we'll be back next week with more topics. Thank you for listening in. Armando, do you have a last word for our listeners?
I will encourage everyone just to dream. Dream. If you're awake, if you're asleep, just dream and write them down. Write your thoughts. Even if you cannot perfectly, poetically put that on paper, doesn't matter. Bullet points are good enough. And as time goes by, just try to explain that to yourself and think about the preferable life you would like to have. How does it feel? How does it look? Who is with you? And so on and so forth. So keep on dreaming.
Thank you for watching, listening, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.